Hello and welcome to Face Off here on France 24. We're merely 3 weeks away from the primary of the Conservative Party that will designate its candidate for next year's presidential elections. If the polls are proven right, this person could well be France's next president. While former Prime Minister Alain Juppé is comfortably in the driving seat, his main challenger, ex-President Nicolas Sarkozy, is certainly not going down without a fight. And it's getting more and more tense as the 7 candidates prepare to square off this week in the second of 3 debates before round 1 of this primary, scheduled for November the 20th. With me to discuss the Conservative primary, Jean-Marc Godin with Le Figaro magazine and Philippe Turrell from Radio France Internationale. So we have 7 candidates, but actually we probably only have 2 real rivals. We'll take a look at the latest poll that is very similar to previous ones taken in recent weeks. Alain Juppé, who was prime minister some 20 years ago, is ahead in voting intentions with 39%. Next is Nicolas Sarkozy, 31%, way ahead of 2 other contenders who are in the lower 10%. And so it seems we clearly have a fight between Alain Juppé and Nicolas Sarkozy. The polls for round 2 show that Alain Juppé would comfortably win with a 60-40% margin.
Yes, the polls are telling a lot already. When you see the first round, as we've just seen it, the 2 persons who come next to the finalists, Juppé and Sarkozy, Bruno Le Maire and François Fillon, are probably going to endorse Alain Juppé for the second run. And so Alain Juppé should gather enough votes to surpass the 50% margin without any problem for the moment. You can feel that the Sarkozy camp is worried. The closest guard around Sarkozy are still supporting him, but you can see that the circles that are further from the candidate are taking some distance. They don't come to his rallies. He lacks the support he had in the beginning.
Right. Although the polls show that the core of the Republican Party, as it's known, still supports him, the big question is who will vote in that primary? And this is probably the unknown, but also the hope for Nicolas Sarkozy, saying the polls are wrong. There was never such a primary, so no one knows who will show up on November the 20th and the 27th.
Well, these polls are open polls for the elections, which means that anybody can vote. If you sign a declaration saying that you adhere to the values of the right wing in France, you are able to vote in this primary. There were 2 options. Either we have it as a closed vote, which is only open to militants from within the party itself, or we open it up to the general public and anyone can vote. So there's been a lot of arguments going on saying, well, should you open it up to the general public, because then you have people from the left who will come in to vote for a particular candidate to undermine another candidate's chances of winning that, to try to support the eventual candidate from the left. It's a bit complicated to understand, but there might be a bit of haggling going on behind the scenes. The right has been saying, well, we need to open it up to everybody to make it free and fair, and then there will be no arguments afterwards that we were trying to cover up or influence one party candidate over another. What Nicolas Sarkozy is saying is quite interesting, because as Jean-Marc was just commenting, everything that Sarkozy is trying to do to win the lead, to take over and become more popular from Alain Juppé is not working. And listening to his recent declarations, he's now saying, a bit like Donald Trump in the United States, well, the opinion polls are wrong. What's going to happen at the end is that people aren't saying they're going to vote for me, they will vote for me. And if it's snowing heavily when this election takes place at the end of November, then all my supporters will go out and vote for me, but maybe those who would like to vote for Alain Juppé won't go out and vote for him. So Sarkozy's clinging on to a few straws in the hopes that he will make it through first in the first round, and that will boost his chances of winning. But it's a pretty far-flung hope, I think, at the moment, unless things change radically between now and the end of November.
Right. As you were hinting earlier, it seems the problem for him is that there's an old but Sarkozy front that is shaping up, not only in the public opinion on the left or the far right, but also within his own camp or his sympathizers, because all the other candidates could very well give their support to Alain Juppé. And this is clearly a problem for Nicolas Sarkozy.
It is indeed. There's this kind of glass ceiling limiting his tally right now. You have the impression that, and you feel it when you go to the countryside in France, where usually the conservative vote is bigger, has always been bigger than the leftist vote. But those people never liked Sarkozy almost from the beginning. When he started being in office in the Élysée Palace, they said, no, a president shouldn't act like this. And this has increased with the years, and there's no way to correct this. There is a kind of refusal of the personality of Sarkozy, which is a main player in the whole election right now.
And there's something else as well, and that is that the Sarkozy of 2016 is the same Sarkozy that we had in 2012. He's saying the same things. He's trying to appeal to the same voters who've gone off to support the far-right candidate, Marine Le Pen. He's sort of moving on to those grounds of what the far-right would be preaching. And many voters say, well, we want something new. We don't want the Sarkozy we had in 2012 who lost to François Hollande. We want a new person. But Sarkozy is seriously lacking in someone who's able to create a new image for him, because the man who was behind all of this in 2012, Patrick Buisson, has since been kicked out of the Sarkozy campaign, and no one has come up with a new idea, a new ideology for the former French president, so that he can create a new persona and win over those supporters who are more interested in Alain Juppé as someone who is newer than Sarkozy, even though he's 10 years older than Nicolas Sarkozy.
That's the whole thing. I mean,
yes, and trying to a second attempt at the same goal, that is, he succeeded when he got elected to the presidency in taking away in 2007, taking away the votes from the Front National. People that were already gone to the Front National went back to the Conservatives to vote for him. But that won't work a second time, because he's been in office, and those people have been disappointed. They say, now we will stick with the Front National.
Why vote for Nicolas Sarkozy when you can vote for the real thing with Marine Le Pen?
Exactly.
So he's
that's the flaw.
Hasn't worked out how to win back those supporters who've dumped him to go off to vote for the far right.
In recent days, though, he has launched a new line of attack against Alain Juppé, because he says Alain Juppé cut a deal with a centrist leader, François Bayrou, who was quite popular a few years ago, but decided to support Nicolas Sarkozy's enemy back in 2012, François Hollande. And so he's seen as a traitor by many people on the right. And the fact that he has an alliance with Alain Juppé is being attacked by Nicolas Sarkozy as basically treason. I mean, could this work? Could this work in the last few days?
It might work, because Bayrou, the centrist leader who has changed alliance at the last election, is seen as a traitor by many people. But I think it's marginal. Many people from the core members of the party think this way, but the rest of the voters won't mind, because yet again, the problem is more a referendum on Sarkozy's person and Sarkozy's character. And as I said, many people don't want to see him again.
Right, but don't you think that the fact that Alain Juppé, whether there's a real deal, at least there is an understanding with François Bayrou, could prompt some people on the right to say, hey, we're not voting for the center, we're voting for the right.
Well, it's difficult to know. I mean, what Sarkozy is saying is that, look, this is the guy who supported François Hollande in 2012. He's now going to back Alain Juppé, which means that if Juppé wins, he's going to have to concede certain things to François Bayrou.
Sure.
And that means that he'll be a lame duck president, because he'll be under the influence of the centre, and from the socialists, those who voted for Bayrou or voted because of Bayrou for Hollande in 2012, will then be voting for Alain Juppé in 2017, and that's going to undermine his chance of being an efficient president. So you need to vote for me. It's not working, and I'm always a bit sceptical about how many people would actually support François Bayrou. He's a one-man party now. It's a sort of bit of a joke, really, within France, because the modem that François Bayrou created has never really managed to get off the ground and become a very important party. And every time you think about modem, the only thing you think about is François Bayrou. So I think his support base is fairly marginal, and I'm not sure how much impact that's actually going to have on the final result in this election.
So for you, as the polls have indicated quite faithfully, if I may say, for the past few months, there's no change. Alain Juppé is certainly the winner of round one, probably round two, and the presidential election.
Yes. Well, I think that if there were bookmakers in this country, they would offer really not much money for his win. I mean, and the figures don't move. That's the problem. Sarkozy he's a fighter, he's a good campaigner, but the magic doesn't work this time. The figures don't move.
There's two possibilities. First one is in this two-round Republican Party primary, if Juppé comes out on top after the first round, then Sarkozy is finished. If Sarkozy manages to claw back some support and comes out first after the first round of voting, he may stand a very thin chance of making it through to become the candidate. But I think my money is more on Alain Juppé, because Alain Juppé is putting himself forward, not very interestingly, but as the man who's bringing everyone together. And I think that's what the voters want now. They don't want a divisive character like Nicolas Sarkozy coming back again.
Okay, we'll follow this primary campaign and the results here on France 24, and we'll see you next week here for a new edition of Face Off.